And then below that, the dive plane is a pretty conventional setup as well. Now, let's get on to the first item of intrigue, which is the suspension layout. Now, this particular car has gone for the same setup to the McLaren, so we've got a pull rod front suspension here, and then at the back we've got a push rod suspension going the other way. Is that if we look back at that wheel with the slip like that, the other reason I don't think it really slimmed down quite high, which run clear all the way through, moving that rod up makes a lot of sense to me. Moving back to the mid-floor, I want to talk a little bit about the Red Bull T-tray, because while they haven't done anything trick like some of the other guys have done in terms of double T-trays or anything like that, the Red Bull implementation is a rather unusual one. What they've got is they've got their little T-tray along here and around here like that, and then they've got the main floor body is going around in this big old loop here. You can see that's a really fat floor body edge compared to a lot of the other guys which are running relatively small keel style setups in the center running over the top of the T-tray. Now, at first glance, you'd probably think, oh, that T-tray is really small, they're not running out to legality. But have a quick look at the legality boxes. This here is the legality box for the T-tray, and this is the legality box for the main floor volume there. You can see there's only actually a very small amount that sticks out that you can use for the T-tray if you were to use the whole of the floor legality volume. If you look at it in 3D, what you'll see is that it gives you a narrow little T-tray that you can put in like that. And then you go to a big fat floor body that would look something like that. And go up that way like that. Now that you've seen that, let's have a look back at the real thing. So we can see on the real thing, it does look like they're more or less filling all the legality boxes all the way to the maximum on both the floor volume and on the T-tray itself. Now, why are they doing this and what are the effects? At the front of this really fat keel, you'll have a high pressure stagnation region. Now, I don't think that's necessarily desirable. There'll be a bit of drag on there, and there'll be a little bit of positive pressure on the underside of the nose, which would generate lift. This high pressure region should help with generating local load on this particular portion of the T-tray. However, that particular portion is only quite small. And we'll obviously get some vortices spooled up and shed off there, but they won't be quite as powerful as some of the teams with full-size T-trays. So why would Red Bull want to use the solution? On paper, it sounds like it's not great. What I reckon they're doing is they're playing around with their pressure distribution in their forward tunnels. What I think is going on is that if you have a really fat section through here where you maximize your pressure at the front, you're then already wide from this point back. So your curvature profile from top down will look something like this, instead of something like that. Now, given the floor leading edge comes in somewhere around here, what this would do is that this particular blue line should have more suction around the floor leading edge with the main body, because the volume that they've got in the tunnels is physically smaller there, and it's got a better curvature distribution. So it should have more suction around that floor leading edge compared to the green line, which is more similar to what other teams run. So you would expect, back on the 3D model, that there'd be more suction in this particular region here with this design. So that's what I think they're probably getting at here. It probably also indicates that their mid-body of the floor back here is probably also close out to legality, which will give you a decent amount of floor planform that would be right at the minimum legal limit, and that should be able to generate quite a lot of suction, particularly when you're at lower ride heights. Looking a bit further outboard, Red Bull runs a barge board configuration that we've not seen on any other teams, in that they have actually two separate barge boards. So we have one particular one, you can see its edge along here, and you have another one that has its edge going along there. Now, to fit this in, they've obviously got both of these barge boards in the forward extending section of the legality box indicated here. Now, what they're doing with this arrangement and why they've chosen it is actually an interesting thing to ponder. The general appearance of the barge boards is one that the two edges are converging together. So if we look from dead top-down view, basically what you'd have is you'd have the outer barge board going like that, and then you'd have the inner barge board would start out here somewhere and come in tighter like that. That's more or less what looks like is going on, judging by what's going on top edges. Now, because this area has a certain inlet size and it's shrinking along here, the air needs to go somewhere. So as a result, we have to look at where the air is going in a three-dimensional sense. Basically, if this area is shrinking, all that's going to happen is that the excess air has to pop out either the top or out the bottom. So what I'm basically thinking is that this layout is going to power up the vortex on the inboard most of these strakes. So there's going to be a vortex that's going to be running that way on the inboard most of the strakes. And then this jet of air down could either just go towards the ground, or maybe it is shedding a vortex that starts to spin in the opposite direction. And that basically would jet the air in such a manner that would go down and then spread out along the ground like that as it's driven by the two vortices. Now this could be a useful situation in terms of managing the tire weight, because that tire weight is going to come down along here like this, and this jet should help push it that away. This should keep the tire wake a little bit more out of the floor, and if we can keep that tire wake out of the floor, we're going to help with the floor performance. Now the problem with this theory is we don't know whether or not this converging channel that they've got has sufficient power to generate a counter-rotating vortex there. So maybe they're both still rotating in the same particular direction, and it's just powering up the inboard one and having a very weak vortex on the outboard one. However, we can learn quite a lot about which way the vortices are spinning on this geometry by the shedding edge details. This gives away quite a lot, so let's have a closer look there. If you actually trace the top edge detailing on the barge boards, what you'll see is that the inboard barge board has a little bit of curvature going this way out, so it's actually curving that way out like that, along there. And the outboard barge board actually has the curvature on the top edge in the same direction. If you follow these curves and how this is all tapered and blended, what you see is that if we were looking from behind, you basically have a shedding edge detail that looks more or less like that. Now this typically indicates that you have a vortex that is spooling up and going that way. That's generally speaking how you would do a shedding edge geometry here. Now the fact that both of these shedding edge geometries are detailed in the same manner suggests to me that the jet that I'm thinking that's coming out the top of this converging barge board region is actually not enough to create any counter-rotating vorticity on the outboard barge board. I think that actually the fact that the barge board is still outwashing is causing the flow that hits it to still push the vorticity so that it rolls that way. So I think there is more pressure at the top at least on the outside of the barge board than the inside of the barge board. So both of these vortices should both be spinning in the same way off that detail, which is quite interesting to note, because I think from a top-down view, when you look at it, and certainly when I first looked at it, I thought they would probably counter-rotate.
Most people my age
it's $5
are slowing down.
$5.
I'm more proactive than ever. Hi,
video content. Right? You can stream 5,000 minutes of video content. Or for $50, then. But I don't. We have
my age.
60 minutes.
The fact that markers of you're going to see decades. For example, my 2% and higher than the average 40-year-old. My functional strength is 115%, which is 15% higher than the average 40-year-old. My blood sugar is 88, and my fasting insulin is 4. My resting heart rate is 54, which is on par with an athlete half my age. And my body fat is only 13%, which again is ideal for a fit man half my age. But more important than my numbers are what those numbers empower me to do. I spend my days seeing patients at my medical clinic in Carson City, Nevada. And in my spare time, I do medical research, I write books and articles, I do podcast interviews, and I conduct seminars for doctors. Plus, I have no trouble riding my bicycle around Lake Tahoe, backpacking up the Sierra Mountains, cutting trees on my property, and 15-mile drive to San Francisco to visit my daughter. In other words, I do pretty much whatever I want, whenever I want, without limiting myself. Today, I'm going to show you how you can do that too, and it all has to do with your mitochondria. Again, my name is Dr. Frank Schallenberger. I am a board-certified medicine, and for more than 40 years, I've been helping older patients feel younger and more vital by improving their mitochondria. Why?
Because you're already running your video through Cloudflare Stream, you get to add on Worker AI and make AI-generated captions automatically. Yeah, look, generate video captions, because you can take the stream tie AI
the
to
holy grail of
overlay
optimal
caption,
aging.
and then
Your mitochondria determine whether you're ready to tackle anything, or whether you feel like you're starting the day with no gas in the tank. And it's all because your mitochondrial energy. When you're everything clicks. Your brain is sharp, your body is nimble, and you're raring to go. In your cells, the trouble is, at the age of 40 or so, your mitochondria start producing less cellular energy, a lot less. Studies show that by the time mitochondria start the amount of cells they churned out in your 30s. That's why a lot of folks feel drained as they get older, hobbled by aches and pains, like they've been from the sidelines, while everyone else gets that far. It's your mitochondria lots of cells. Imagine having more energy, taking up new hobbies, traveling, or just enjoying life's special moments without feeling run down. And you'll love how easy it is when you know how. Today I want to tell you about 3 nutrients that can rejuvenate your mitochondria. These nutrients have been tested and verified at institutions like Harvard, MIT, and the Mayo Clinic. Most anyone feels sharper, stronger, happier, and healthier. But most folks don't get enough of these nutrients from their diet alone. So let me tell you all about them, starting with Mito Booster number 1. You've probably heard of NAD.
Videos that have been published, right? They have their AI going.
Celebrities like Cindy Crawford, Brad Pitt, and Tom Brady rave IVs and NAD boosting supplement that you need this miracle molecule to make energy. Your brain can't think without NAD. Your heart can't beat without NAD. Your lungs, your bones, your joints, your hormones, sex drive, everything requires NAD. That's how important NAD is to your health and energy levels.
I mean, it's perfect.
The cool thing is your mitochondria can actually make NAD. When you're young, your mitochondria are great at doing that. That's why kids can play for hours without slowing down. But as you get older, your mitochondria get worse at making NAD. In fact, by the time you've hit your 40s, your NAD levels typically have plummeted to half of where they were when you were in your 20s.
But you need to know
your NAD levels keep dropping with age, forcing your cells to have energy to function.
Essentially, they're like, all right, go get a cloud box.
When your cells start losing energy,
because then
you
I have to manage
start losing your edge at the gym, the golf course, and the office. And as your cells continue losing energy, walking, banking, all entire energy loss, they make less NAD, they have less energy, so they make less NAD. And on it goes until your body is literally craving more NAD. See, that vicious cycle can wreck your health and quality of life. Because remember, your brain, muscles, organs, joints, bones, every cell in your body needs ample NAD to function. That's why NAD IV therapy is so common today. You can probably find doctors in your town doing it right now.
So, because you didn't know they did that?
No, I didn't know it was a service.
I didn't know either.
You can also find pricey NAD.
Then I'm like, okay, well, I need a solution, a cloud-based solution to run this reliably. And so then I was like,
because they're more like a security kind of protocol thing for companies.
No, remember CDN, Content Delivery Network, as well as cloud
people
security
behind
and
but that was the bread and butter.
Against any of these, the deal. That's because the one that most vitamins that can roll as each gas tank. Mark that went 200 milligrams, an astounding percent. And that's in 30 minutes, fold increase. And these folks didn't have to hassle with getting in the car, driving to the clinic, and sitting in an IV room waiting for an NAD IV, or forking over a wad of cash for a very expensive supplement that claims to boost NAD levels. As soon as they took this vitamin, their mitochondria were re-energized. Their mitochondria started acting youthful again and turning out nobody's business.
Now looking at the bottom section, it's a little bit different. Now we obviously can't see the bottom edge of the inboard barge board, but I'm pretty certain that it would be generating vorticity that was spinning that way, spinning in the direction that all straight will and go up and be ingested into the tunnels. But we can see the outboard strake.
And we're running off of...
And that acts a reasonable amount. Cycle rounding in this portion here. So that's suggesting that either we've got limited vorticity or perhaps vorticity going into the inboard side of the strake. However, as we go further rearwards, it flares out. You can actually see it start to flare a little bit that way, like that. Now, some of this is naturally because we've got a downwashing flow that's coming down through the back of this channel, and so we're going to flare it out and curl it to try and get extraction there. But I wouldn't be surprised if this particular detail is actually able to kick a fair amount of mass flow outwards, and maybe it's an indication that they are starting to get some form of roll-up on the back. It's really impossible to tell unless we capture some flow vis of this area, or even then we might still not be able to tell because the vortices will be quite off-body. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they are some form of system that is basically powering up the mass flow that's coming down in this direction and giving us some form of mechanism by which to outwash the lower wake outwards. It's also worth noting that the rules prohibit the strakes from being less than 10 millimeters apart on virtual surfaces. However, the strakes can extend 4 millimeters from the virtual surface on each side. So theoretically, the gap at the rear of these strakes could come closing down to as low as 2 millimeters. Now, this outboard double barge board system obviously has a fairly sizable effect on how they have to use the rest of their strakes, because now they've essentially lost one of the strakes they can use in the main body by putting the barge board. So in this front view, what we've got is this is the leading edge of the outermost barge board there, that's the leading edge of the innermost barge board there. Then we have the outermost, what I would consider a strake, and it's worth noting that there's a little bit of perspective going on here, so I don't think that's quite as close to the barge board as it does look there. And then we have the innermost strake there. Now, the outermost strake seems to pair very closely with the other two barge boards, so maybe this converging barge board system has powered up the vortices on the underside of that barge board quite a lot, so maybe they want to try and spread it across two shedding edges by using this outboardmost strake to depower the innermost barge board, and therefore they can support that barge board, clean up these vortices a little bit, but still get good vorticity in the tunnel. That could be why that positioning is so. And then the innermost strake seems that its nose is very close to the center line. You can see in the T-tray shots just how close that is. And then it looks like, judging by just a little bit of the grayness on this picture through here, that it has quite an aggressive angle on it as it starts to move downstream and outward. So that, to me, looks like it's quite a strong strake. It could be shedding a very strong vortex structure off it that could be feeding the main tunnel and generating quite a lot of suction on the roof. Now, when you look at the side view of this region, you can see that there is one strake visible at the exit. Now there's two potential strake layouts I propose here that could both exist. We have this option and this option. Unfortunately, we won't know for sure which one it is until the car crashes or someone gets a good shot of the underfoot.
I'm shocked at how few people actually know why they're losing their hearers. They have no idea what's happening inside.
Moving to some mid-car detailing, the mirror is quite an interesting one. We see this sort of housed mirror structure that we've been seeing for a few years now, where we have some sort of basically winglet around the main mirror body. But the interesting detail in this particular mirror is to be found in this region right here. Because what we've got there is we've got essentially, it looks to me like some form of little mini detached winglet along there. So you can see that this is clearly attached to the mirror, that's clearly off the main body of the mirror, it's split off. This looks like this might be a little free shedding edge here, and I'm thinking that given the shape of this, where this particular portion concaves and dips in, but what we're going to see is that this design is all about generating maximum outwash. So obviously we've got a portion here that's kind of a bit like a gurney flap, but then we've got the void behind, so maybe we're generating a vortex, putting a bit of mass flow into there and then flicking out that way, and it's just going to take any airflow from here and kick it out that way. And this really shows you how far teams are going to try and maximize the outwashing of the wake, because apart from outwashing wake here, I don't see why you would need such an aggressive attempt at an outwashing mirror. Now we get to the bit that I'm sure you're all waiting for, which is of course the side pod. Now conceptually speaking, it's not actually that radical. This sort of deep undercut we've seen on the Aston and the AlphaTauri. We've seen the downwashing rearwards portion to the diffuser floor on the AlphaTauri as well. I've discussed these bits in a fair amount of depth on those videos, so go and check those out and more more info on that. The main difference on the Red Bull is the location of the upper leading edge, where on the other cars the upper leading edge is forwards, Red Bull has pulled it back quite substantially. So let's explore a little bit why they could have done that. While I couldn't possibly know exactly what they're doing with it, I have a few reasonable guesses. The first one is that it could be to reduce the duct losses. So obviously in the side pod we have a radiator here. The primary intent of the inlet on the side pod is of course to provide cooling to the radiator. And then running through the side pod we'll obviously have some form of ducting that will go down to the radiator and along to the radiator there. Now if you have your inlet sit all the way at the front along there, then it's just going to be generating a boundary layer and losses the whole way along it, right? So if you were to cut this particular portion of internal ducting off from there forwards, you would reduce the losses coming into the system. This means you get more flow across the radiator, you would get better cooling. So that's a positive thing. This is probably the most minor detail of the reasons that I've got to list. The next one is tunability. Now let's say that I have a certain inlet and ducting characteristic. I don't want to be playing around with that too much, but let's say that I want to have really good tunability at the front so that I have the option to go either leading edge up or down on this region to maybe get more pressure here or more suction here, or maybe the other way around. We want to pressurize here a little bit more. So I want to have some flexibility in how I tune this particular region. If the inlet is decoupled from the forward edge, which we've done here, it means I can leave my inlet more or less fixed and just play around with moving this leading edge up and down, as well as playing with other bits of geometry and curvature in this general region. Now this is actually a very useful characteristic from an area development perspective, because let's say you do a change upstream, you can quickly adapt this particular portion of the bodywork to match whatever flow changes you've made. The next potential reason is the ability to position the leading edge this higher. Let's say that I was finding performance by putting my leading edge up here somewhere to maximize the pressure across this entire region down here. If I wanted to go up that high, and I had my inlet running the whole way to the front, I wouldn't be able to physically move that up that much, because my inlet area through here would get smaller and therefore I'd have cooling issues. Now you could fix this problem by moving this particular edge up and ending up with a geometry that is sitting higher like this, but the problem is that you only have so much legality box there, so you can't actually physically do that within the rules. So what do you do instead? Well, you can instead cut your leading edge back here, and then that allows you to raise the leading edge of the lower element, keep the upper element leading edge rearwards, and still meet your cooling demands, because you're effectively drawing air in as if you'd raised the upper edge of the forward element as well. Now they're not doing this in this particular scenario, but the point is that they could if they wanted to, which is really what area development is all about. It's about leaving doors open, particularly when you're at early phases in concept development. The next reason, and probably the most straightforward, is that they could have just gotten it as a straight up gain in the tunnel from a pressure manipulation perspective. If we moved the leading edge forwards to up here, what we'd have is that we'd have the stagnation pressure of the slower air at the inlet. Obviously it's not full stagnation because there is flow through the radiator, but basically you'd have the high pressure zone that this inlet's creating here. We should be able to move it a little bit further forwards as we move this leading edge forwards and get it here. But if we increase the high pressure here and stagnation here, chances are that we're going to end up with slightly more downwash down here as this deflects the air downwards. Now if we have the angle of the air going down here more, let's say it was previously going in it this way and now it's angled down, what would happen is that you'd end up with more suction in this particular region here. So you'd end up with less overall pressure in this region here. Now if you were trying to target the mid-lower wake instead of the mid-upper wake, that may not actually be a positive thing. So maybe they found that when they pulled this leading edge backwards, they were able to get a little bit more loading on the lower wing element, and that was able to get them slightly better lower mid-wake control. So maybe that's what they've done here. The final one is that by pulling this back, they've been able to expose the vertical portion of the side pod a little bit more, and you can see that obviously ties in quite well into their mirror state, which is basically an extension of that portion of the side pod. So maybe by pulling that leading edge backwards, they were able to get this working a little bit more effectively, particularly the upper portion, therefore get a little bit more outwash performance, and maybe that was a beneficial feature in terms of wake management. So anyway, those are a few theories I have on this side pod. I may have hit the mark, I may not have, we will never know. Let's move on further and talk about another super juicy bit, which is the floor edge, because this has some really cool stuff going on it. And to start with, I'm going to go and look at a legality box. This is a shot of the legality boxes around the floor. Now the general gist is that everything that's shadowed by this particular floor region, you can't have any cutouts in, except for this particular region that is covered by this blue box here. Now in that blue box you are allowed 2 sections in any Y-slice. So basically what that means is that if I go and put a notch in here, and then we consider a Y-slice running along there like that, we've got 1 section over here, so this is 1 section here, and then we've got 2 section over here. Happy days. Of course, you cannot just go and put 2 cuts like that, because then we will have 3 sections in a Y-slice. So that's a no-go. You can't cut twice, you can only cut once. And then each of these cuts, in terms of dimension, has to be a minimum of 50 millimeters apart. So what Red Bull has done is that they've gone and had their floor go along straight, and they go and they have their first cut along here. It looks like it's pretty much at 50 millimeters. And then what happens is that they run a secondary cut. And the way that they legalize the secondary cut is that they go to the back corner of this legality box and then they run it straight.
96 cents to $1 a piece for all these parts.
Yeah.
And if I bought this brand new, it would be 350 used. You don't want to buy a used proportioner because there's bleach running through it. But 350 for a used one, or like 650 for a new one. It's crazy. Whoa. And it's just piping, dude. It's just piping and valves.
Well, it's the same as
it's just piping and valves.
What, like that? What was that thing called? The J?
And it's so gate kept. It took me so long to find this information, man.
Well, it's not going to be on the internet. Yeah.
Well, I found some guy. I found a guy that
it's like
does actually show that information.
Well, I was going to say it's also just like experience. You know.
Yeah.
Like just to
you have to know
put this
how
in,
to look
to
for
put
it.
this in perspective. Like when we were doing our car shit in high school, we were building all of our own, airbag suspension systems.
Yeah.
No fucking YouTube, no internet forums. I mean, there were them, but the car guys weren't on them yet. And so like we're just like, we would go to the industrial gas supply place in Ontario. And like huge warehouse, like they're like, what the fuck are these guys doing in here? We're like, hey, what's up? Like, we're building an airbag system. We need a bunch of 1/4-inch NPT. We're gonna need these fittings. They're like, yeah, go ahead. And we just go through the rows and like literally go through everything. Yeah. But you had it in front of you, so you're like, wait, oh shit, I need that other fitting. And then boom, we're like, and then my other homies were literally building airbag valves out of sprinkler solenoid valves. Like, hacking to figure out how to make other homie.
Yeah, that's like what I'm doing in my in my water tank. So there's the pump, but in the water tank, let me show you the diagram. Because honestly, like I didn't know how like all this stuff works. Like I've never built a trailer, you know, and I've never had anyone explain to me.
Well, I mean, it's more about systems design thinking.
And that's partially my fault because I missed day 2 at the training event because Daria had an emergency event. I had to leave. So I need to go to more training events because they want you to learn that stuff. But they also don't. They don't want you to learn it because they want they want to sell you the proportioner.
Totally. And that's why I'm like anti all of that.
Yeah.
You had to get into how to teach yourself.
I do like them going there because it's really great for networking.
No, that's fine.
And
I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this information.
Yeah.
Right. And this is really into systems design thinking.
You have to know the systems. You can't just buy the system. You have to, even if you are going to buy the system, you have to know how to build it.
It's not even about mechanical systems. It's about applying systems design thinking to life in general.
Right.
So when you approach a problem, it's not somebody has the information and they're going to tell me exactly how to do it. You have to go like, okay, what are the first principles of the system?
I came up with a solution, right? Yeah. I was like, okay, so I have this tiny ass 55-gallon tank. Nobody's really using that, but I have found people on forums that do use that successfully, especially with night. But so my problem is, I'm like, if I have water going in there and I'm filling it up and I'm on the job, that thing's gonna be overflowing all day while I'm working. Especially if I'm gonna take a break or anything, that thing will fill up in 10 minutes. So that thing's gonna be constantly overflowing. Customers aren't gonna like that because it's gonna be flowing into the street. If an EPA comes by, they're gonna be pissed at me. So I'm like, okay, how do I shut that off? I found this feeding trough. Feeding like a cow, like an animal feeding trough.
The auto fill, the float. It's a float.
Where does that go? I have it listed, but it goes underneath. Oh yeah, here you go. The Hudson valve.
Yep.
So the Hudson valve goes under here. underneath the filter. So I'm filtering the water coming in. It's going into here. I have the Hudson valve. So once this fills up,
it's the same thing as like literally using. So these floats, the float valve.
Yeah.
Just like tons of hydroponic systems, and everyone again going back to first principles and going to the store and being like, oh, boom, float valve. Oh, sweet. Wait, that's a standard thread size. I can just plug that into the other thing.
Yeah. So I'm going through all these different. I'm pulling like 20 different videos together to find all these solutions, because I'm like, okay, now how do I solve like water's coming in, but it's going to be shooting in here from my bypass. The bypass stops it. So this is another solution. This is another problem I had. Like when I turn off my gun, it's going to be running my engine and killing my pump. So what do I do about that? Plug a bypass from the pump through here. The water is going to be shooting down here when I have pull my trigger. That's great. But when the water is shooting down here and I don't have very much water, if I'm low and I'm close to my red tape, it's going to be creating a vortex here, and I'm going to be having turbulent water coming in. So I'm like, okay, what do I do about that to avoid that?
Diffusion.
Bulkhead. No, just get an L-shaped bulkhead, shoot it over here so the water's hitting here and then running down. Just little stuff like that I had to figure out all of this crap, and I'm like, okay, now I can do it though, and I know which part I think to get there. It depends which like fittings. I'm probably going to use 1/2-inch fittings for now, but if I upgrade to a 7 GPM, like I can take all of this and just literally plug all this in, plug all these specs in, but change this to 3/4 inch, and I'll be getting like way more flow, way more water flow if I want to go 7 GPM plus. Nice. Because this is all of this is just run off of a 7-volt pump. Like,
sweet.
This is also well, I mean, this is a proportioner, so I can run it off, whatever. But
car battery.
Yeah, car battery definitely will be in there to run the pump. But then like I still gotta diagram out like the whole system so that like I can understand it and I can like explain it to you simply. That way when we're doing the build, like that way next time you're looking at that guy's truck, you're gonna be like, I know exactly what everything goes, because it's really pretty simple.
Yeah,
it's not super
I mean, I don't need to put anything in my head. We just go to build it.
Yeah, it's gonna be in my head.
Yeah, that's how exactly.
So I found also really cool information. So I found these pumps, right? These North Star pumps. So I found cheap pumps, but I was like, do I want to go with the cheap pump? I could do this other video where I can keep it all under $500, but I'm like, maybe I want to push it to $700 and get a little bit better setup that's going to last me a little longer and be more fail-safe. This is like a $170 pump, 12 volt, but $20 warranty for I don't know, it's like forever or something. Totally. So this guy was telling me, he's like, I went through like 5 of them, no questions asked. I just replaced it at the store, at North Star store, so in stock, locally. Get it. Yep. So you can get 2 of them, even to have a backup. Just in case. But he showed me like this, if you flip the pump upside down, the water's not, the chemicals aren't just sitting at the bottom of this pump, they're actually draining down into these tubes. So he said after he did that, he's never had to replace the pump in like a year or 2. I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy. They're downstreaming bleach through the pump and it's not failing. Yeah, because these are pumps made for bleach, But yeah, just little stuff like that. And like, I know a lot of these other guys out here don't know that stuff. You know? So I'm finding like really cool info. I'm still working on it. Sweet. But I have, I'm pretty much, I need that proportioner because it's stopping even just my non-soft wash system from being like an epic system. So I think I'll probably end up building out a proportioner for both of them. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out what my system is. Is it going to be 2 systems or is it 1 system integrated together? That would be preferred, I think. But I'm trying to figure out if I should go with 2 systems and have 2 water tanks. That way someone else can be working on soft washing while I'm pressure washing.
Totally.
And have an extra reserve tank. They have the 100 gallons left. We can switch the valve over to the other one. Yeah. In the meantime, we'll be able to calculate a bit. They'll have like 30 minutes of nonstop flow, and then they should probably wait until the other person's finished, and then but at least someone's not doing nothing for that time. I could even be someone else could be working on the neighbor's house, while that's going on. Yep. So just stuff like that I can make one truck turn into two, and then also build this out. It's very simple. Build not this out, but build. Yeah, I guess just build this system out. This is the pressure washer. You know, the food comes down here. That's me. But it's just like, this isn't complete either. That's not a complete picture. It's a whole separate page that I need to diagram out the complete system so that I can understand exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Because I'm not exactly sure which way I want to go with it yet.
Yeah, you still have some design decisions to make.
But right now, I can pretty much do, you know, I'm ready to go on the wood because everything, the reels are going to be where the reels are. The engine's going to be where the engine is. It doesn't matter what my setup is. Those can feed into anything, you know?
Totally.
So,
just tubes.
That part needs to get done for sure. So if we can, like, get together and just build out that wood part, I can move on to then, you know, focusing on the mounting and things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know when you'll have time for that, because I do need your help cutting that wood.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just get the cut list, get your design, get everything put together. Because are you doing the rack anymore, or what's the deal there?
So
like, are you going to start with one of those frames or not?
Sure. It's just I'm kind of don't want to spend more money on this right now until I start making more money. I don't need a ladder all the time. You know, I can throw that little ladder in the back, and it's going to be fine for 90% of the jobs.
Well, then just get the design.
Not super essential.
The
only thing I do want to do is just make sure we cut out the holes for those poles to go. Because what we can do is, like, we have the truck, like, quick rough draft, just of the design. Like, let's see on this page so I don't waste the page. It's like truck, and then so the rails down the sides. And I want to see what you were thinking, because you were telling me about something before, and I kind of was understanding, but I also want to, like, understand what you were saying.
I want to mimic his design, just with wood.
Okay, so from what you were telling me, right? So we have two wood planks going on the sides, and then we're gonna support them in the middle, or are they gonna be connected on one?
No,
of the
they're gonna be
ends?
short enough. No, it's gonna be just like we described before.
Yeah.
They're gonna be box frames. Right there. And then inside, so that's whatever material. I don't know. Are we 2x4ing it? Right. So this is looking from the side.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the bed is, about there. Coming over. This is lipped over just a tiny bit. And
So this is the wood, or what?
yeah,
What am I looking at here?
We're looking down, just like, look, your view
Yeah,
here.
so we're looking into here.
we're still doing that, right? We're looking down.
Yeah.
And this is the support leg
Mm-hmm.
that goes into the bed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then this is the truck bed lip.
Yeah.
And then this is just lipped over, just like on the other guy's build with the aluminum. It's just like maybe 2.5, 3 inches over the edge, just to give just that little bit of extra room inside.
Yeah.
So instead of going inside the truck, we go a little outside
Yeah.
the truck. That way it just gives you tons of free room.
Yeah.
Here, and then whatever. Here's the next one. Next one. Got your little
One
2x4
problem
going
I
down
think I
that way.
have is that I have 18-inch wide hose reels, and I think the widest wood I can get is 8-inch or 7-inch.
No. This is framing. This is
okay.
framed.
Okay, cool.
And not
Okay,
solid
good.
planks.
Not just 2 planks.
No, that's a ridiculous design anyway.
Yeah, it's just gonna pull at the top, and
yeah, it's not flexible. It's a flat plank going this way.
I would have to make a ton of wheat poles too. I was thinking about that.
The way, I mean, look, a plank doesn't want to be like this. It wants to be like this.
That's not how you build. You know,
Right.
if you build a deck like that, you're an idiot. If you build like
There
this.
you go, exactly. So
Bring it, right?
if you wanted to do that, then you go 2x4, 2x4, 2x4.
I was thinking about
2x4.
that too, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
But we don't need that. We're not
And then
using.
have just like a tank
Yeah,
on the
but
side.
we just don't need that because these this frame is going to be built in that fashion. It's going to be built like standing up in this fashion, one going that way, right?
Yeah.
Not laying down this way. It's up like this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
So that's one of the 2x4s. Then we have one connecting these two, right?
Is that the back?
Yeah. So to speak, right? So just a block. But everything's oriented in this orientation.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, no, I
So
understand. Yeah.
Just because, again, just putting those planks, even we made the bench. We made a bench, not a box, not a frame. Frames look like this.
Yeah.
What we built was a bench for people to sit on. Wait, it's rock solid.
Well,
It's heavy as
I guess
shit,
what we
but-
could do is like for like say, so I'm gonna need the engine to be super bulky, and I'm gonna need the hose reels to be super bulky.
No,
So what we
that's
could
a
do
plate.
is go
That-
across here with
that's
the
a plate.
plates like this.
Yeah, of course.
And then put the metal plate on top of the
Correct.
wood.
No,
and then drill through it.
No, it's just you do that again, and you have this same thing. This is just like this is
Yeah,
how,
no, I get it now.
Like house framing.
100%.
Yeah.
I understand now.
So you're blocking.
Yeah, we don't want to go.
Yeah,
the other
and
way.
you want that to be flexible, right? So that it has twist and bend all the
Yeah.
different ways. So then when you put the plate over the top, you put the plate over the top, and now you put little tabs that are metal that affix, that are 45 degree, right? Little
See, this
little metal
this actually works
tabs.
perfectly because now I can.
And then the
have-
metal connects to metal through a little rubber bushing.
Because on
and
the
then-
four ends, we're gonna have those points, the
Yeah.
preset. So now those can be open here, and
Exactly.
we can build around those
Yep.
easily with that design. So
Yep.
I love it. Okay, that sounds easy enough. It'll be my first time making a cut list, but I'll do my best.
You'll be fine.
Yeah,
Just
it doesn't have to be exact either. Like, well, it does, but
No.
this one does.
It's just make sure you have enough run out for all of the cuts. So when you
It's a little extra.
what you're thinking about for your cut list is what do I need to purchase and what lengths. So when you go to buy this and
Yeah, it
this,
just has to be long enough so we can cut it down to the length.
just make sure we have enough run off of these cuts that we can make these two cuts
Hoping
as
to
well.
use all the wood we have to.
In other words, when you go to buy it, like, oh, they only have 12-foot lengths, or they have 8-foot lengths, right? So you might make a choice there based on your cut list. Oh, I needed 4 12-foot lengths, but they only have 8-foot. Okay, well then hold on, let me think about, oh wait, these are going to be only 7-foot, so that's perfect because we need 1 foot on the ends. That's the more important thing. The cut list doesn't need to be precise. It just needs to account for all of the wood that's going to be required.
And does this box on the end too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
a frame.
Right.
A frame has 2 rails
Yeah.
and 2 box ends, or like 2 caps or 2 heads. Just like, again, house framing. What does a house frame look like, for a wall? They're all oriented in the same direction as well, with
Because I was just thinking,
things
okay,
on top.
so this can be solid back here. That doesn't matter. But for this one, it almost might be smarter to do two smaller supports on the back end. That way, I have the slot to put stuff in when I'm pulling the truck bed down. It's not just flat wood.
No. This isn't going across the whole back of the bed.
It's not.
Look, this is the back of the bed. This is one unit, and this is one unit. They're probably connected over here, so it's a big U
Yeah.
in the front of the cab, not the back. The back should be open completely.
Okay. Are you
here-
sure
here.
we wouldn't want to push this out too, though, for support?
Push out?
Or have this, so that way there's no chance of inward force.
Inward force?
Yeah, like this being a U shape.
It's gonna be rock solid.
Okay.
What force would be pushing in this direction against the frame? All the pressure is going down.
Well, no, because when I'm turning, there will be inward forces coming in.
No.
with the heavy equipment on here.
This turns into this force. It's cantilevered. It's
I guess
cantilevered
I don't
out.
really understand what these are.
here is the back of your bed
Yeah.
with the latch. Let the bed open.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the rail of your bed. Right? Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to build a frame. That's the end. This is one of the rails. This is another rail. Right?
Yep.
Now, there is a post that goes down to the bottom of the bed right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's an L.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's wood frame, wood frame, wood frame, wood frame. Resting on the edge of the bed. This is going just slightly inside the bed so that the weight is cantilevered. So the force is over here. The center of gravity is like not even here, it's like over to the edge. So all the force is pushing down against this post, and any force that goes this way is actually being translated downward. Because this is all fixed.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of
I guess
these.
I'm maybe like
that's the whole point of these.
overthinking
That's the whole
how
point
much
of
force
these.
is going to be coming out when I'm turning, because
Yeah, for sure.
like
And
I don't turn crazy either.
The whole point of these, this is affixed to the bed as
Yeah.
well. This isn't loose.
Yeah.
This has bolts going into the bed frame.
Right.
Right here, right here, right here, right here,
True.
right here. However many we want. So that is affixed to the bed. So when you turn,
Yeah.
it's affixed.
Those are almost like giant washers in a way.
Yeah, and then again, all that force is then being translated down to, and we can put more than one. Of
Oh, yeah,
these,
definitely,
You know,
sure,
right?
yeah.
So there's going to be at least one at the end. And there, probably
at
one
least
in the middle.
3.
Yeah.
Maybe
So yeah,
4.
and then it's attached to the back.
That'll be good too, because I can put stuff in those pockets.
Mhm.
Actually found a little thing. You know how the wheels are here? These
Yeah.
little stupid humps. I found this toolbox that goes
Yeah.
like that.
Nice.
It's really shitty. I'm trying to find a good one. It's got really bad reviews.
Yeah, there's got to be
It's
something
like
we
this
can
one does
figure out.
not fit, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, because you could make
Like we don't know what truck
mean,
this
the-
was made for, but it's not made for a
Yeah,
Ford
a US
or
a US truck.
Silverado.
Because within that bed too, you know, you could put. So then you have the frame and all that stuff coming down. I mean, you could build a little bit of cabinetry here,
Yeah, I think
Right,
you
like,
should. Yeah,
whatever.
I think I should for
just
sure.
like custom build with
Have
it.
somewhere to put my
So like once you
wands
have
and all that.
Yeah, once you have this, then yeah, you can make a little door there that opens, and then the wands go down, you know, along like a PVC tube, you know, or build a box frame inside, you know, a box frame inside there, or just PVC tube would probably be nice. That way they slide down, easily slide in, never get caught on anything. All right, I gotta run.
I do too.